Are you confident that people like you and I can change the world?
I believe that we can have an impact on humanity by the energy, frequency, and love that we put out. People can see it, people can feel it. When someone does feel that, they're attracted to it. And sometimes they just want to be near it and they want to know how they can spread it. And sometimes they want to have what you have. And so they seek guidance and support. And that is one of the most beautiful things, to see someone step into the light that's been in the dark for a very long time.
Welcome to Cause TV and the Cause Green audio experience, however you're joining us tonight. Thank you much for being here in this series about personal worthiness. So over the last few weeks particularly, I've had so many discussions when I've been on stage or during podcasts, when I've been the guest or the host. This topic seems to come up a lot. And so recently I noticed on Facebook somebody that I just had to have as a guest. She's got a terrific, amazing, deep story, and she also helps people through this. So I thought, who better than to get this guest on this episode of Cause TV. Let me tell you a little bit about her. My guest is the friend who helps you up-level and believe in a magical life. Do you really believe that life can be magical? I believe life can be truly magical. Because, you see, magic's just something that's done that you don't know how it's done. But once you understand how magic is done, it's actually very simple. And so I believe we can live magical lives if we figure out how the magic is done. And my guest is going to help us learn more about the magic of extraordinary living tonight. She's a popular certified master life coach, spiritual guide, new thought leader, and sound and energy practitioner. My guest is a dynamic trailblazer. I love that word, trailblazer, whose vision in life work is to educate, inspire, and support others on their journey to inner peace, joy, love, and a higher level of consciousness. Friends, will you help me welcome to the program tonight, Cassie Callister.
Thank you for having me.
When we had the option of doing it in a studio or via StreamYard, I mean, who wants another Zoom meeting, right?
Exactly.
I don't know about you, but I'm so over that.
Exactly.
I like meeting people in person. Mm-hmm. And you have a great energy. We just barely met a few minutes ago, and there's just a great energy. So let's find out a little bit more about your journey and what qualifies you to help people find this extraordinary magical life. So take us back a little bit. I read your bio. Mom at 18 years old.
Yeah.
Take us back a few years and kind of set up the backstory for us.
Yeah, so I would say that one of my greatest gifts that I offer the world is my life experience. And going back to what you said, as a pregnant teen mother, 18 years old, and putting myself through college, being scared to death, going from that to just really finding out who I am in my 20s and my 30s and not really knowing that, and being in survival mode for so long, married for 17 years and, raising 3 kids, things like that. It wasn't until about 37 years old after divorce that I thought, who am I? Who am I? What do I believe? What makes me happy? And so after a lot of what I'll call life experience, without going into great detail of all that I've overcome, at that point in time, I looked at those life experiences and thought, I want to look more closely at this. What can I learn from all this? I want to study my life experiences. I want to study the experiences of others so that I understand why I operate the way I do and why other people's behaviors have impacted me, and why did they do what they did. And so as I began to study my own life experiences and the psychology of those, it took me into this great love and passion for personal growth and development. And looking back on my life, I realized that I had approached everything with a great deal of resiliency. And I thought, well, why did I never become a victim of my circumstances? What was it about me that every single situation I just thought, what can I learn from this? And I know that is one of my inherent gifts, that I was given, and wanted to pay that forward and really teach other people how they can overcome when they're in certain situations and all the challenges that life can throw us, how they can navigate that. And as I started to dive into my own personal growth and development and study those experiences for years, unfortunately in 2022, I lost a grandchild. And that was a very different type of trauma. That trauma felt different than any type of grief or loss I had experienced. And as anyone knows that has lost someone, when you do lose someone, you tend to want to stay connected to them in some way. And so in an effort to try and stay connected to the other side and him, because I could still feel him around me, and in an effort to heal myself, I started to study frequency. And I started to study how I could heal my own brain through different frequencies, and studied vibrational sound healing and energy work, and began to apply that into my own life, coupled with EMDR and therapy, and saw significant changes. And so as I continued on my own personal journey, I realized that not enough people know about this. You know, people don't.
What is this? Know enough about this. What's this?
The ability that we have to heal ourselves. The ability that we have to take all that wonderful personal growth and development that we love to get from books and podcasts and therapists, and fuse that with spiritual practices, and fuse that with holistic wellness. And that coupled, you know, with the personal growth and development fused with the spirituality aspect or the holistic healing aspect, you can make significant changes. You can really change your life rapidly compared to just sitting in an office with a counselor.
Sure.
It's a whole other layer. And so when you ask what makes me qualified, first of all, I've lived it. I don't teach my clients anything that I haven't done and I know works. Second of all, I know that my personal experiences, life experiences, I've experienced just a little bit of everything to some degree. I don't know exactly how my clients feel in situations that they're processing or going through, but I know I can meet them at their feelings to some degree because I've lived it to some degree. And so that level of empathy and compassion is there. And so when you look at those two pieces and you add the fact that I also have the superpower of being vulnerable.
That is a superpower, isn't it?
It's a superpower.
We'll unpack that in a second. Let me read something from your website that you sent me that I think is awesome. And as we started out today's broadcast, we talked about you are worthy. And I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face, that I know your critics are lining up to tell you you're not worthy. In fact, you're probably still saying that to yourself. I'm not worthy of life's greatest blessings, okay? We've already called bullshit episodes ago on that kind of thinking. So if you're still dealing with that, we're going to continue down that vein today. Stop saying that to yourself, because you are worthy of life's greatest blessings the day you were born, and no one can take that away from you. You have the seeds of greatness. You just need to cultivate the greatness that already lies inside of you. But you said you are worthy and deserving of an epic life. Cassie also writes, I used to not fully understand myself. I tried to blend in, people please, fit the religious norm, be a good girl, and do as I was told. I was what you would call the black sheep, welcome to the club, speaking out against family dynamics that I knew weren't okay, speaking out against physical abuse, being the uber mature 4.0 student working 2 jobs who played soccer and cheered, all while hiding physical abuse, emotional abuse, religious programming, bullying, anxiety, huge lack of self-love, and an eating disorder, and eventually becoming a mother at 18 my senior year. On the outside, I seemed fine. On the inside, a complete mess, having no idea that I was just seeking to be loved and accepted for who I was, yearning to be loved for me, not my religious views and practices, not my status within a church, not how put together I acted, not for my achievements or performance in certain areas, just authentically me. That is, until I gave myself permission to be unapologetically me. And as you said, vulnerability became a superpower. And I believe vulnerability is our superpower. But it takes great courage to be vulnerable. At what point did you say, I'm not a victim then? Throughout all that, at what point did you say, I'm not a victim? Because you have a whole different vibration here because you're not a victim. And I've had a lot of guests on my shows over the years, and they take one of two veins very quickly. Either I'm a thriver, or I'm a victim and a survivor. You're a thriver. At what point in this did you make a choice, a conscious choice, that you were not going to be a victim and that life is a do-it-yourself project? Where was that for you?
That's a really good question. And I would say that at every point in time, with every obstacle, I subconsciously, I feel like it's an inherent gift that with every obstacle, I would look at it through a different lens. Even at 18 years old, I felt unstoppable until someone told me that I couldn't do it. I felt like I could raise my daughter on my own. I did put myself through college while I worked 2 jobs. I was happy and excited to have a baby. Actually, I was very mature and just thought it wouldn't be a problem at all until I was told otherwise.
Who told you you weren't worthy? Yourself or someone else?
Someone else.
Okay.
And
why did you believe that?
Because I looked up to them as people that I should trust and believe and honor and respect. And so I felt completely empowered as a mother until I was shamed and guilted for having a baby out of wedlock and, 18 years old. And then that is when I started to doubt myself. But luckily, I had a good support system when it came to her father and his parents. And but aside from that, with every obstacle, now the language I would put to it is that I would look at it and realize this is not a dead end for me. This is a detour in the right direction. And when, after divorce, my 3 children and I had to move in with my parents, and I had to start over and rebuild my life and had nothing. Even in that, I had to look at myself and say, okay, how did I play a part in this? Where did I contribute?
You mean what part of that were you responsible for?
Absolutely.
So a little personal responsibility in this?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And another piece to that is looking at what I can control and what I can't control. There were so many things in that situation that were out of my control, so I can choose to sit and cry about it. I mean, I had every reason to fall asleep at night and not want to wake up, but I choose my happiness, and I knew that. And regardless of other people's choices, I wasn't going to let that affect me and my children, and I knew that I was resourceful, and I knew that I could rebuild my life and have it look the way I wanted to, because I've done it before, and it was just who I am. And so there are pieces to that. I genuinely believe we're made of parts. There was a part of me that knew I contributed to some things and how to look at that and have an ego death around that. And then there was a part of me that knew, you know what, there are lots of things that are hurtful and hard right now, but what am I going to do about it? How do I get out of this? I don't get out of it by just sitting there and feeling sorry for myself. I need to show up for myself and my kids. Yeah. That's how I get out of it. Victimhood, I mean, we can acknowledge that somebody hurt us or did us wrong, but to sit in that and have that be our platform for everything that we do and drive our decisions, it doesn't serve us. And I just knew, I just knew as part of who I am that's not how I operate. That's not how I operate. I wanted to approach things through a lens of love. I wanted to try my best to look at situations, regardless of how much I was hurting, through love. And love for myself, love for my kids, and love for those that had hurt me. And that's hard to do sometimes, but it softens situations.
So you said that you felt worthy, regardless of what you were going through, even in the culture you were growing up in.
Right.
But then somebody else got in your head, said you're not worthy.
Right.
How did you get your personal worthiness back? At what point, what did you either do, go through? What dynamic change happened within your soul, though, that you said, no, I am worthy? And then at what point was that?
That is such a good question. I would say for the larger part of my life, I didn't feel good enough. And
can you source that, though?
Yes.
Is that you saying that? Is that where does that source come from?
It was adopted. It was an adopted belief, which a belief is just thoughts that we keep thinking, right? So if you grow up in an environment where you feel like nothing you do is good enough, and you don't feel like you can communicate your emotions in a healthy way, or you grow up in an environment where there's a consequence if you communicate how you feel, you start to feel like you're the problem as a child. And subconsciously think, well, how come I am not enough or lovable enough or whatever you're telling yourself for my parents to listen to me or want to hear what I have to say or be an emotionally safe place for me, an emotionally safe container for me. And how come what I have to say isn't important? How come my feelings and thoughts are not valued? And so it starts from a very young age, and then as we progress into adulthood, we're thinking these things, having no idea where they came from and how they even got there. And how we show up in relationships has to do with that as well when it comes to attachment theory and things like that. I had, when it came to religion, there was some religious abuse there. I mean, I had...
Define religious abuse.
So that is a new term for me, and it's not my term.
Okay.
It's actually a term that was given to me by someone that holds a doctorate degree. I didn't even know it was a thing. And so religious abuse, for me, the experiences that I shared, is when someone was manipulating me to feel that if I didn't do certain things, that I was bad, or I wouldn't go to heaven, or I wouldn't live with my family. I wouldn't ever see my family again. And it was this feeling that I was born inherently bad, and I was always fighting that instead of inherently good and stepping into that. And
isn't that amazing? Isn't that a radical mind shift? It's a radical mindset that I'm not inherently bad, right? That I'm born in sin, and that no matter what I do, I'll never get enough credits to be good enough, versus not being a people pleaser and saying, I am good enough, and I'll continue to get better. But I'll tell you, for me, that was a game changer, because growing up, I was a people pleaser. Everything I did in entertainment, broadcasting, right, was to be in the public eye and be lovable and be loved. But there came a point where I had to decide for myself that I'm worthy of life's greatest blessings, regardless of what anybody says.
yes.
So you dealt with this religious abuse. So guilt and shame down here in that map of consciousness from Hawking, right? If we talk about frequency, which we'll talk about more in a second. So guilt and shame's down here is one of the lowest of negative emotions. And most people live in guilt and shame.
Right.
And that's a horrible place to live.
Right.
At what point did you forgive yourself, though, so that you weren't living in guilt and shame? And how was that the key that unlocked it all?
That's That's really great. So I would say that it was more of that a fog was lifted.
How so? What do you mean a fog?
So I was in a fog that I was bad. No matter what I did, I was just bad. And that I was different. I knew I was different from my family. I knew.
God bless you for being different.
I knew within our family dynamic, there were some things that weren't okay, and there were things that were very damaging. And so when I started to speak out against that and try to change that dynamic and advocate for myself with the support of a therapist and having a really good inner circle, I started to realize, whoa, I'm actually doing good things here. Like, it's okay for me to bring this to light. It's okay for me to talk about this. It's okay for me to advocate for myself and say, hey, these behaviors aren't okay. And learn how to set boundaries and stand by them. And really see, after setting boundaries, people I thought would love me no matter what, see what their reaction was to my loving expectations. That was really hard to process. And thank goodness for an amazing therapist that was by my side as I navigated this.
At what point was this in your life?
About 2017.
So not too long ago.
Yeah, like
6-7 years ago.
Yep.
Okay.
Therapy will forever be a part of my life. It's a lifestyle choice, in my opinion. Same with a life coach. I will always have one. And so with her, being of the same religion that I came from and being able to help me see what's not okay and what is okay, I really needed someone to tell me that, because it had been ingrained in my mind so thoroughly that any thoughts or beliefs that I had that were different were bad and wrong. And so I needed someone else to bring that to my attention that actually was of the same religion and say, oh, no, that's not okay, Cassie. That's actually religious abuse. That's it, or using religion or your worth as a threat, to...
Isn't that amazing, though?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know we'd go here today.
Yeah.
But this whole topic, though, of personal worthiness to me is fascinating because, again, I don't care at what station in life people are that I've talked to.
Yeah.
Whether casually over lunch or in the halls of Fortune 50 companies or whatever, there's not one person who doesn't look me in the eye. Well, there's one person I remember once, and I said, you're enough, and it didn't faze them. But every person I've ever said, you are enough, they've broken down and cried.
Yeah.
And they've said, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I think that's the great epidemic in our land that destroys people, families, and societies, is this whole personal worthiness thing, that you are worthy. And I know now it's a movement, there's books about it and there's seminars about it and everything, and I've always thought this, but I'm on a little crusade. The worthiness and the love, which really worthiness is just self-love, right? And self-love can only be a product of forgiving ourselves for every wicked, brainless, stupid thing we've done. And it's okay, because that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Is to do stupid, brainless, wicked, dumb things and learn from them. So to think that I have to be perfect at every turn is ridiculous. But giving myself the grace to make mistakes and learn from those, and I'm worthy of life's greatest blessings, now not go chase them, but they'll actually come to me.
Right.
As we talk about frequency here in a second. But I'm still, can you remember when you were good enough? Or was this such an evolution over a period of time? I'm not saying I can go back and say it was May 3rd in 19 whatever, but what was happening in your life when you finally came to the realization, I'm not a people pleaser, and I'm doing this for me and my kids?
Right. Yeah. So that was actually as recent as about 3 years ago, where I fully stepped into that.
What happened that you stepped into that?
I would say over time, I gained that with consistent work. And really learning that like, as you said, we're born worthy, right? We're born
And
worthy.
no one can take that away. I'm sorry.
Exactly. And there's not a checklist of things I have to do to be worthy. There's not. It just is. Can we add value to ourselves from our achievements and accreditations?
But being
and all
more
these
valuable is different than worthy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Hopefully we're always seeking to add value to our
Right.
life and the lives of those that we interact with.
Right.
But that core solid foundation that you are worthy, that's immutable.
It is.
And no one can take that away.
It is.
But too many people, they're given permission to be that person. And I don't believe that's true. You are that way because you were born with the seeds of greatness. You were born
Absolutely.
with those seeds of divinity.
Absolutely.
And no one can bestow that nor take that away without your permission.
Right. And too
And
many
most
of us
people
give it away.
Right? Yeah.
Too many
give
of
it
us
away,
give it
give
away.
it away. Yeah.
We give it away, and that is part of what I help clients do, is remember their greatness within, because we live in this mortal life in these bodies, and we forget our greatness, and it's a remembrance, coming back to who we are. And so that was a huge part of my personal and spiritual journey, is learning my greatness and learning that I don't have to do anything to receive love, that I have strengths and I have weaknesses just like anybody else. And you can love me even if you don't understand me. And I can love you even though I don't understand you. And I can love you even though I don't understand all of your beliefs or maybe even agree with them.
But isn't that what love is?
Exactly.
But love doesn't mean I agree, condone, right? Somehow in today's world, because we're more polarized than ever, if I like someone, it means because I agree and condone. It's only been most recently, really the last couple of years, where I have friends now that are 180 degrees different from me politically, spiritually. I used to say religiously, but spiritually, politically, emotionally, everything, because we never master it, but I'm learning to truly love people and be on the frequency of love. But I had to first find that frequency within myself and love myself, forgive myself, right? Then I have something to give away.
Right.
But we're more polarized than ever before. And I don't think it's political. I think it's spiritual. There's good versus
Absolutely.
evil in today's world.
Absolutely.
Because the opposite of love is fear. And so, I spent my career in media. I know how this works. If it bleeds, it leads, clickbait. We're being taught to be divided. We're being taught to hate one another, where I believe love is the answer. Not an egocentric self-love, but we have to have self-love, healthy self-love for ourselves, or we can't give it away. Because if we're here to love others, on the other side of that coin is we have to be lovable, right? So I can only be lovable to the degree to which I get along with myself during the dark nights of the soul. So let's talk about a term that you threw out just a second ago as well. You said the death of the ego. I had the death of an ego experience a few months ago, and it was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Define death of the ego in your world and what that was for you.
Getting honest with myself, getting honest,
You hadn't been?
I thought I had been.
What do you mean?
I thought I had been. So, we all walk around going, oh, well, I'm not a liar. They're a liar. I would never lie. I never lie. And so this is one example. But I started to look at that and I'm like, I lie. I lie sometimes to protect someone else's feelings. I'm a liar. Or, things like that. And
Does this suit make me look fat? No,
You
your
look
face does, Tommy
fantastic.
boy. No, I'm just kidding. Nothing like that. Those are good lies to tell people.
Right. And so,
just
we can walk around with a judgment of, oh, they do that, but I don't. And it's really interesting because what we usually what we are picking out in other people is actually what's being reflected back to us is like, hey, maybe you should shine a light on that.
Because we're always down on what we end up to, right?
Yeah.
It's
And
easy.
I really, just as of very recently, a few months ago, actually asked myself and asked the divine to help me shine a light on any area of my life that I needed to fix with people, that I needed to fix within myself, things I'm not seeing, please shine a light on those things so that when my time on this earth is over, I didn't have any regrets. And so...
Be careful what you ask for.
Exactly. But it was beautiful. It was the most beautiful experience.
Tell me more. How so?
Through meditation, I had different people come through that I hadn't thought about for, 7, 8 years, and got to reflect on those past relationships and how I may had contributed to those in a way that I wasn't proud of, or even if they had done some type of damaging behavior, been honest with myself, maybe I didn't fully communicate my feelings well in that situation. I could have done better there, and I wonder how things would have gone had I been able to do that, had I had the skills to do that. And I was able to either send them an email and apologize for not showing up as my best self, or just energetically send love and ask for forgiveness. And if they didn't accept it, then ask if their highest self would accept that love and forgiveness from me. And it's amazing how the universe works, because over the course of about 6 weeks, I had synchronicities of people running into people that I hadn't seen for years, where I was able to walk up to them and say that I was sorry for not showing up as my best self in those past relationships.
And how did that kill your ego, though?
It kills my ego because I'm shining a light on it, and I'm being honest with myself. So the ego likes to hide in the dark. Mm-hmm. And so the ego will stay there in the dark until we hit that ground bottom, and we crack open. It's not until we crack open and are vulnerable and honest, which can be gut-wrenching sometimes, and allow that light to come in through those cracks. And as I said before, view it through a lens of love. Like, I'm doing this for myself, and I hope it has a positive effect on them too. But the light cannot exist with the dark. So if I'm letting these things hide, that 1 or 2% we don't like to share with other people, I'm not able to step into my highest self and what I could be doing and receiving, and also helping other people do with their life. And it's a personal thing. We don't need to go around telling people what parts of our ego that we need to work on, or what we're hiding. That's for us. It's a very personal experience. But it's very freeing and empowering. We can do a lot of things to make ourselves feel better, but who's brave enough and who has the courage to step into the dark and really look at the things in that 1 or 2% none of us like to talk about?
But no one's exempt from that, are they? No one's exempt from the darkness. Mm-hmm. But most people hide in the darkness. Mm-hmm. I've had other men to say to me, I could never be vulnerable like you, Cos, because you've been pretty public about your journey. And I think that is a superpower, to be vulnerable, but it's hard. Mm. It's gut-wrenching to be vulnerable on that level and to not try to hide in the shadows. But we all have a shadow self, even a blind self that we're not aware of, till someone shines the light on it for us. And people are mirrors and people are teachers, like you're saying, right? But let's talk about frequency for a minute, because that word keeps coming up. Mm-hmm. First time we talked on the phone, we brought up frequency. Yeah. When you got here tonight at Rock Canyon Studios and you met Gaynor for the first time, you were like, and you said this, so I'm not speaking out of school. Yeah. I don't know if you said it just like this, but you were like, Gaynor, I just love you. I love your energy.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, you can't. Most people can't walk around talking like that. How have you become comfortable to say that? Even in our first conversation, you were like, "Gosh, I just love you. I love what we're doing." Okay, that's a word that's been screwed up in our society, right? This whole love thing, right? Maybe we can talk about that a little bit too. But we can love people on our true love level of frequency. So let's go to frequency and the frequency of love. Okay. You explain it to our viewers and listeners. they're tired of me explaining about frequency. So
Oh.
give me your take on what is frequency, why is frequency important to understand, and how has that healed you? Let's talk about frequency.
Love it. Okay, so there's a science behind it, and then there's also just like the yummy, I feel it, I feel good, I feel happy, but there is a science behind it. And so as I mentioned before, when I lost my grandchild, I wanted to stay connected to something greater than myself. And you can call that God, you can call it the universe, you can call it love. But I genuinely believe I was created from love and kindness, so I am love and kindness. And I know that that resides in me, and I know that I'm an extension of that. And so when my grandbaby passed away, I could feel that still. And you can't make that up. And so as I dove into my own spiritual practices, daily spiritual practices, and just dabbling with meditation and mindfulness, I could feel love. I could feel it first. And the presence of love. So I began to study frequency. I began to study how we're all connected, and that even down to like the atoms that are in our brain, that make up our brain, we're energy. We're energy. And so if what made us is love and kindness, this beautiful energy, and we're made of that same thing, then we can resonate with each other. And we
So
can
explain resonate.
Yes, I
Okay,
will.
you and I know what that is, but there will be
Yes.
people listening or watching who don't understand frequency, resonance, dissonance.
Yes.
So put it in layman's terms.
Yes. So, for example, there's something called sympathetic resonance. That is when, if you were to put two pendulum clocks on the wall next to each other, over time they would start to tick at the same frequency because of sympathetic resonance and the frequency that they're giving off. And so that's one example of resonance. And so back to, why I started to study frequency, I started to study different types of frequencies and how they...
What do you mean types?
Different types, like different waves, different hertz.
So you're actually talking about not just frequency in general, you're talking about the individual frequencies as well.
Yes.
Whether it be sound, light, all the different things.
And
Okay.
how I at first just started to apply this in my own life, and I would listen to certain frequencies in order to heal my own trauma from losing my grandchild, because that's a totally different type of loss, and coupled with therapy as well. But I started to notice a significant difference in my healing, and I wanted to dive deeper into that. And so I went and got certified at a state level to learn how to use different instruments.
Thank God you just didn't go to some webinar on Saturday for $47. Thank you for going beyond that.
Yes, I went to iSound Institute and got certified and learned how different frequencies actually resonate with the different chakras, and that those chakras actually govern different physical and emotional ailments in the body. And so I knew if I could tap into that chakra with a certain frequency, that not only could I heal myself and regulate myself, but I could do that for other people. And so when we talk about frequency, you can also call it energy.
Energy, frequency, vibration, they're synonymous.
Right. And what you're doing is those frequencies are traveling through the body. And you can think of your chakras as energy centers that just, spin.
And 7.
Right.
Right.
And if they're not functioning properly because of things that we haven't processed or just day-to-day life, if we're not giving ourselves tune-ups, spiritual tune-ups, then our chakras don't function in a way that serves us best.
Resulting in disease, malcontent for ourselves, emotional issues, right?
Autoimmune,
Whatever the mind harbors, the body manifests in some way.
Absolutely.
But all this is connected, right?
Absolutely. Everything starts out as energy. And if it's negative energy, which is produced first usually by a thought, then if we don't process that in a healthy way, if we don't take care of it, if we don't look at it, it starts to manifest in the body, as you said, physically. And that could even be something like a cold. And so if you can just use frequency as energy, you can use those interchangeably. And if you can use something like an instrument, like sound bowls, or that are set to a certain frequency, or tuning forks set to a certain frequency.
To the layperson, this is woo. Right? Because I went through this. This is woo.
Yes.
So help make it a little less woo.
Okay.
Okay.
So if I put something next to you that is vibrating at the same frequency that one of your chakras could vibrate at, so you feel better, then it's going to have a positive effect on you. And the same goes for people. If I am vibrating at a low frequency because I'm not taking care of myself physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, then I'm going to vibrate a little lower. And those in my vicinity will feel that. And the opposite is true as well.
Sure.
If I am...
And we can feel it in an instant when we walk in the room, can't we?
Yes, and that's why I said that to Gaynor, and that's why I said that to you. Because as I practice... That's
pretty bold. That's bold in today's world.
Yes, but as you practice it more, and as you come back to yourself and more in alignment with who you are, which is also an extension of the divine for me, that's my belief, I am able to pick up on that, and I can feel that from other people. As I studied vibrational sound healing and went and got certified as a life coach and everything, I also got certified in Usui.
Okay, that's a new word.
Usui. It's a type of Reiki.
Tell me about, okay.
It's a type of Reiki. Reiki is Japanese for love and light. And that helped me to act as a vessel for other people and pass on love and light that they may not be able to access themselves at the moment. And so all of these things, you asked, how, you said to Gaynor, I just love you, I can feel your energy. How did you come to do this? And it starts within. I would not be able to feel that if I wasn't in alignment with myself and my higher power. I wouldn't be able to feel that of others if I was looking for something different and looking for how we're different instead of how we can connect. And I try to keep my vessel clean, physically, spiritually, emotionally. I try really hard, because the cleaner that our vessel is, the easier it is to feel other people.
Oh, you say cleaner.
Cleaner.
Define that, though.
Okay, so...
Because it's not worthiness.
Right.
So when you say you keep your
vessel clean.
Your vessel clean, what does that mean?
Yes. So what I put into my body, I try to make sure
both
that...
mental, physical, spiritual, all that?
Yes. And just even what I eat, what I put into my body. I want to make sure I eat clean. The cleaner that I eat, and the more I take care of my body, then I am able to act in a way.
So are you saying food has a vibration? Is food on a frequency?
Yes, and yeah.
Dollar menus have a frequency?
How it makes you feel, definitely you will be giving off a different frequency depending on what you eat.
I wish people understood this better.
Yeah.
Right? Because we seem to run to a doctor for everything that ails us, for yet another script. That's not the answer. Okay, in some cases it is. Okay? I'm not anti-big pharma, but I think the day we become even greater is when we don't rely on big food or big pharma for our happiness, because we have to find it outside all of that. And I mean, here we are in Utah County today, the most heavily medicated county in America and one of the least happiest. So it has nothing to do with the medication, right? We can just agree to disagree. There's a time and a place for meds, okay? But for the most part, most of what we're talking about that we're dealing with can be just fixed with our energy, vibration, and frequency.
Yeah.
But we have to just recognize its power
Yeah.
and be willing to do that. But I like how you're saying you have to be cleaning the inner vessel first. So you're not only just saying food, but also thoughts, your programming, all those things are what make your vessel clean. Anything else we're missing that makes your vessel clean?
No.
Okay.
Going back to what you said, it's really interesting how we do just instantly trust someone because they've worn a lab coat or they have a degree. And I know that...
Big statement, I know.
Right. I know that our thoughts are so extremely powerful. For example, you can take 100 people and give 50 of them a sugar pill,
Placebo.
a placebo,
Yep.
and tell them that they're, taking a medication that's going to help them, and then the other 50 give them the actual medication, and the results will be very similar because it's the power of our thoughts.
Power of belief is so amazing, isn't it?
So the people that get the placebo think that they're getting it, and so their thought is, I'm going to get better, I'm getting this from a doctor who knows what they're doing, and all of those things. And so it's just really the power of our thoughts. They have a huge impact, and when you couple your thoughts with strong emotion, you can accomplish a lot in life. You can accomplish a lot.
So how do we change our frequency? How can our viewers and listeners change their frequency faster and better, according to the world of Cassie?
There's so many choices.
Well, let's choose a few.
Okay.
Focus on a couple.
Okay.
Teach me, coach.
All right. So I would start with easy daily practices if you were just starting out. Just make it very simple. One of the first things I would start with is just mindfulness. And that can look like, there aren't a lot of rules, but that can really just look like you sitting there. I suggest turn on music of certain frequencies to help the brain.
Any that you can suggest? So when you talk about that,
yeah.
I mean, let's talk about that.
It can be as easy as searching for, just getting on YouTube or Apple Music and just searching up music to heal the heart chakra or music to help with anxiety.
And there's a million out there.
Yeah. And then there are things called binaural beats that help us concentrate and think and accomplish a lot in our day because it helps the right and the left side of the brain to work subconsciously with each other. And so it can be as easy as that. Just look it up on YouTube or something. And so mindfulness, you can just find a place. You can start out with 5 minutes. 5 minutes a day. Everybody has 5 minutes a day they can give themselves. And I suggest doing it in the morning and taking that time to sit there and be present with your thoughts the best that you can. If your mind starts to veer, don't judge yourself. And just for me, what I suggest that my clients do is just put it in a box with a lid and say, brain, I'll get to that later, but right now I want to be present. And
mindfulness is about being present.
Yes.
More than anything else, right?
Yes.
And not letting it stray and,
Yes.
I'm looking in the rearview mirror and crucifying myself for everything I've done in the past, nor am I anxious about the future. It's being present in the here and now. That's mindfulness, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so I would say start small, start simple, 5-7 minutes a day. That is one way that you can very easily come back to yourself and increase your frequency at the very beginning of the day. Another option is grounding. As you know, we've talked about frequency. We know that the earth naturally gives off a healing frequency. All nature does.
And yet we wear rubber-soled shoes,
Right.
insulating us from the Earth's magnetic force.
Yes.
Somebody must have thought about that, but it wasn't just for comfort.
Yeah.
I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but it's interesting how we've gotten further and further away from the things that can heal us.
Yeah.
So take your shoes and socks off and walk around in the backyard in the grass,
Yes.
right?
Yes. It's as easy as
that goes right to the root chakra.
It's as easy as that. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be hard. And really, right in the beginning, it's about consistency, because every time that you're consistent, then you're honoring yourself, and it speaks to your soul. And you go, okay, I can do this. I stuck to it. And then you can increase it to 10 minutes and 15 minutes. I'm to the point I do 30 minutes to an hour, depending on my day, because I don't want to come out of my meditations or my mindfulness. And I'm receiving so many answers for myself in my life that it's so beautiful. I don't want to start my day. And so once you stick to that consistency, honor your commitments, and it speaks to your self-worth, you'll want to do it more, because it'll feel good even in that way. Even if you're kind of struggling with your mind wandering in the beginning, you want to continue to do it because you're honoring your commitments, and you know that, hey, I've been told it works, so I'm going to keep doing it, and then I'm going to try, and I'm going to see how it goes. And typically,
and it takes time, though.
It does take time.
Everybody thinks it's a magic pill.
Yeah.
I just want to underscore for everybody watching and listening, this takes time, right? Because if you're, okay, I just had a birthday, so if you're 58 and the average person's having 12 to 60,000 thoughts a day times 58 years, that's a lot of programming that you might have to change.
Yeah.
Right? So give yourself grace, give yourself time.
Start
to
simple.
Make these changes, though. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
You've got some big, big mountains internally to recalibrate.
Absolutely.
So be patient with yourself.
That's something that I talk to my clients out a lot, because once they have all these tools and they have all these skills, they're so excited for their life to change. And sometimes they get out the beat up stick and they're like, well, I'm not doing it perfectly. And that's not what it's about. It's about the consistency of it. And you can build, if you have the foundation of, okay, I'm going to gift myself 5 minutes a day or 7 minutes a day. Everybody has that. And so if you can have that foundation of consistency, you can build on what that looks like as time goes on. But be gentle with yourself and get the basics down. There's no race, there's no timeline. That's something we put on ourselves. But just from excitement, some of my clients are like, well, I want to be here, and how do I do that? I'm like, well, let's not run the marathon until we've done the 5K.
Exactly.
But they get excited.
Well, they want it to be a 100-yard dash.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It took me 40 years to get here, but I want it fixed overnight.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. So just with that excitement, they want to, they get frustrated. They can't do it perfectly, and they can't do it all at once. And then they realize, and they see the positive effects of it. And when it comes to frequency as well, not so much a practice, but something that I also suggest is to just make sure you're conscious of your environments and the people that you are surrounding yourself with, because our souls are porous and we absorb everything around us. That's my belief. And so,
you willing to go there for a second?
Sure. Yeah.
Because this is a deep subject, and I strongly believe that we do attract people, opportunities, and circumstances into our lives in harmony with not what we do or say, but who we are. And sometimes there's people in our lives that we have to disengage from, and that can be painful for them, right? So there's no easy answer to disengage from people, but we have to sometimes realize that this person's juju is just not good for us.
Right.
They're negative.
Right.
They're victims. They're whatever, and we can't be around them.
Right. So
how do you do that?
right. I believe that this is life college. I believe this is life college, and every person that comes into our life is meant to complement it or teach us a lesson.
I agree.
And sometimes they're there to complement it for a while, and then they teach us a lesson. Maybe it's both. But as we look at who comes into our space, sometimes we realize we're outgrowing them, or they're not serving us anymore. And
Isn't that selfish? They're not serving us anymore?
is selfish a bad word all the time?
No, I'm throwing that out to you because you're saying it with a smile on your face. that they don't serve us anymore. And that's
Yeah.
okay, right? That's okay. It's no
okay.
one's fault.
It's okay, because it's okay to send people off with love, because we have to have boundaries for ourselves in order to be happy. And we have to have boundaries for ourselves in order to live a joyous life. We can't, if we don't, we're falling into the people-pleasing phase of, well, I'm just going to make everybody happy even though I'm suffering, or I'll be a doormat, or I'll accept this behavior and not say anything because I want everybody to like me. And that's the thing about boundaries, and that, which is really what we're talking about.
Healthy boundaries, right?
Healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries are there to teach people how to love you. And so if someone doesn't want to honor that, then you have to take a look at that relationship you have with that person. It could be friends, family, romantic, and ask yourself, is this good for my mental health? If they're not willing to, if I share something that hurts or I'm not okay with, and they don't care about my heart, and they don't care that that hurts me, maybe this relationship isn't good for my mental health, and therefore I need to step away from it.
And it's okay to disengage, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe people come into our life for a reason, season, or a lifetime. Mm-hmm. And it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay that it's just a reason.
It's just
like
a
to your
reason.
point,
Yep.
I had to learn a lesson. I had to have a light shined on my shadow self by this person. I'm grateful, but it's not forever.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It is okay.
That doesn't make me an ass.
Doesn't make you mean. It's
Right.
not bad.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
You said mean, I said ass.
Yeah.
Same thing, right?
It doesn't make you mean, and you're not bad. But the thing about boundaries is you're going to be a lot less popular, but you're going to be happier. And I do challenge my clients as they learn to set, communicate, and implement boundaries, to have that be a surveillance period in a way, especially
A
if...
surveillance period.
Yes.
Okay, tell me more.
So I see a lot of clients for dating and relationships.
Okay.
And if a client is in a situation, a toxic relationship, and they're really struggling, they've never set boundaries, they don't know how, and they're scared to communicate them. When they first start to implement these boundaries within the relationship, or you can call them loving expectations, I tell my clients to just sit back and watch how the other person reacts to their loving expectation. Do they respect it? Are they listening with love? Or do they get defensive? Do they act like you have a problem because you're trying to, because you have this loving expectation? And so that's what I'm referring to as a surveillance period of time when you're first learning how to implement these boundaries. Huh? Yeah, you're first learning how to implement these boundaries. It can be very powerful to start to journal and learn and really pay attention to how someone is receiving our boundaries or not. It gives us clarity.
I like that. Loving expectations. Mm-hmm. Because in the world of coaching, we have to design the alliance, right? And if you have expectations of me, wouldn't it be fair to have expectations of you, right? So that's that client coaching relationship. Mm-hmm. But I wonder how many people in relationships ever actually design that alliance and establish the expectations. So let's talk about that for a second. So in romantic relationships, people get frustrated because of unfulfilled expectations, right? That's why relationships fail.
Yeah.
Is because of unfulfilled expectations, right? I expect this and you deliver anything less than that. I'm frustrated, right? Because it's unfulfilled expectations. So to your point, you're saying these loving expectations need to be clearly communicated.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
checked in on.
Yes.
Reviewed, surveilled. So talk more about these loving expectations and why relationships fail then.
Yes. So to your point of what you just said, I like to call them unvoiced, because we go into relationships knowing our wants and needs, and we hold sometimes people hold another person accountable for something that they've never voiced, and we're not mind readers. And so
What?
that's why I teach, like I said, I see a lot of people for dating and relationships too, and I teach them, hey, in those first few months, just have fun and gather information. And I do not want any of my clients dating until they know what they want and until they can communicate that. Because
They're not ready then.
Exactly.
They're not ready to be in a relationship.
It saves, as I tell a lot of my male clients, will save you a lot of time and money if you know what you want, and if you can communicate that or see if she'll go there with you in a conversation. What that might look like is, what are your values? And not just what are your values, what does that look like? What is being...
How's that manifested, right? What's the behavior?
Yes. What does honesty look like for you? What does loyalty look like for you? It might look different for you than it does me. And having a very clear understanding of not just someone's values, but what that would look like in a relationship with them. Because nobody likes surprises. Oh, well, I thought we were on the same page when it came to loyalty.
So what are some of the others? Loyalty? What are some of those discussions we should have?
Yeah.
What are some of those?
It needs to come from someone's list of their values. It needs to be personal. And
They should have a list?
They should have a list. You should know what your non-negotiables are before you go out there and start dating, because what happens is we meet someone, and my clients will meet someone, and they get all Twitter-pated. It's that new relationship energy, and they forget to ask important questions. And they then ignore red flags that kind of just are pink flags to them, because they're so excited about the relationship, and, oh, we're just, like, they're so cute or so handsome, whatever, and this is so much fun, that when you have that list, it's concrete.
Should that be shared?
I think it should be shared. I think your values should be shared. Now, when I say a list, it's
probably more categorical in my mind.
Yes.
Right? I'm not going to pull out my phone and go, here's
no,
12.
No, do not do that. I am not saying to do that. I am saying...
But in your mind, you have these...
I think you should write it down on your own.
Yep.
On your own. I have my clients do an exercise where they write down what they want on the list. And of course...
What they want. Be a
what
little more
they
specific.
want.
What they want from the relationship, in the partner, what?
Yeah, in a relationship and in a partner, both. Because that's also part of the magic of manifesting, is you can just think of your dream person on the paper, and then you get to go through and go, okay, this is a non-negotiable for me.
Give me examples of non-negotiables.
Safety.
Okay.
Safety. That's emotional safety, mental, spiritual, monetary. Like, I feel safe with this person. Or integrity. They're a person of integrity. Or I want to be with someone that has strong communication skills, that they don't lean away when we have hard conversations.
Can people do that in today's world, though?
Yes, with help.
Why are
Just
good...
kidding.
Okay, so you're laughing about that. Can I be candid with you?
Yes.
So I find it very difficult to have someone who can engage me the way I need to be engaged.
Yes.
And because I'm talking about the emotional and intellectual connection, people don't ask questions anymore.
Right.
They just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been on dates where you're done with a 2-hour coffee or something, and then they say is on their way out, we should do this again so I find out something about you. I know nothing about you. Because we don't ask questions. We're not going a mile, we're not going deep. We're going an inch deep and a mile wide on things just to see if there's a fit, instead of, let's really grow in love with this person.
It's emotional intimacy.
Emotional intimacy.
Yes.
But most people can't do that, Cassie.
They don't have the skills to do it, or they're scared. And it's interesting.
Damn fear.
It's interesting because a lot of the males that I work with, they're like, well, isn't that weird? Well, that seemed like I want to marry her, and things like that. There are some insecurities around that. And what I have to say back to that is, well, do you want a woman that can go there with you or not? If you ask a woman these questions, if she squirms or avoids it, is that someone that you feel you can create emotional intimacy with.
And the sooner you learn that, the better, I suppose.
Yes. So you're right, it's a learned skill, and sometimes we have to model it for the other person and see if they'll meet us there. And if they can't, then it might not be a fit for us if that's what we're seeking.
How much time do we give somebody?
For what? To meet us there?
To your point, there are a lot of people that don't have the communication skills we're talking about, right? Because of fear, or it's not in their toolbox. They weren't raised with it, they didn't learn it, whatever. At what point is it not your job to teach them, though?
It's never your job to teach them. It's never your job to teach someone else how to be in a relationship. But
how do you model this communication you're talking about then?
Okay, for example, let's say one of my clients is just met someone and they're texting back and forth. And my client is always asking questions, trying to get to know them, engaging in the conversation, and the person that they met is just, not putting a lot of effort into the replies or maybe one-word replies. And so I would then tell the client, hey, model the behavior that you want. And if they don't pick up on that and reciprocate, it's not a match. So then you get to decide, do I want to continue with this person that's not reciprocating my effort or not? And so
you model it. This is what it looks like. This is what I expect. This is what I like. This is what feels good. Because it's an energy, and if they don't reciprocate the energy,
then you make the decision if you continue to entertain it or not.
At what point, though? A week, two? It's just time, right?
It's a personal thing.
You surveil for a while.
It's a personal thing, but if you are very early on in dating, like that should be very easy to cut off, right? Some people think they can change other people, or I think it'll get better over time if I just keep trying. And so we have to be very clear on what's okay with us, what's not okay, what we want, and know and accept that sometimes, no matter how good looking or amazing someone is, sometimes they just aren't compatible with what we need or want in a relationship. And so it's up to us. We get to choose how much we punish ourselves and continue to engage with someone that's not meeting our needs or not. And we can't blame anybody else for that. If we continue to entertain someone that is not meeting our needs, that's on us. If we're too scared to walk away, that's on us. And no one should really feel bad for you if you continue to stay in some relationship that's not meeting your needs, because we all have a choice.
Because you're just being nice.
We have a choice. Some people are scared. Some people see things very late in a relationship. They come, you think you know someone, and then you see something later in a relationship, and then it's harder to make that decision. And you might be willing, because you've invested more time, or maybe you love the person, then you would be willing to invest the time and energy to see if things change, maybe with support with a life coach or a counselor or something. And so it does depend on where you're at in the relationship.
But to your point, I wonder how many people go into new dating relationships with love.
Yeah.
Because it has to come from yourself, right? And I think this is a complicated topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so viewer warning. Okay, this may not be a comfortable discussion for some.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay to have loving relationships early in. I guess I
get what you're saying.
I'm of the belief that we can have loving relationship. Okay, this is crazy. The first time you and I talked on the phone, when I said, hey, is this a fit that I interview you? We had to do a little dance if there could be love, right? And by the time the discussion was there, we knew that we could have love in our friendship.
Right.
And that was a proper love.
Right.
And it was a good love.
Right.
You walked in and had love for Gaynor. Something tells me
much.
that you walk in and you have love for people. I think that scares some people, Cassie. I know it does for people in my life. I had a situation this week with a male. he's an amazing guy, and we're at a big event for him, and I was just proud of him, and I looked him right in the eye, and I just said, I love you, and I'm so proud of you. And he stopped for a second, and he goes, you know what, I'm going to have to process that.
Really?
And we've now had a conversation. He said, I just appreciate that you're not afraid to tell other men that you love them. And I'll tell you, that's a hard thing in today's world. But I am not going to the grave with an I love you left in my heart for anyone. Whether it's a man that I'm in a friendship with, or a true brotherhood, which is the case with this guy. We've spent some amazing experiences. And I just think we need to say I love you a lot more to people. And don't say it unless you mean it. But there's some people who can't take an I love you statement.
Right.
They really can't.
And we know where that stems from.
But they can't.
Right.
They can't say I love you back. I have a couple of friends that whenever I see them, I don't care if we're playing softball together, doing crazy things, I have no problem saying I love you. They cannot say it back. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And then I'm reminded of situations where I've said it for years and something happens and they say it back, and there is the most spiritual connection because you have this bond of love. And isn't that what we're seeking?
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking man for man and woman for woman, but
Yeah.
in today's crazy dating app world and meeting new people for the first time, I think man and woman can have loving relationships, and it has nothing to do with sex. It has nothing to do with intimacy and all
Right.
that. And if we could have more of those types of relationships with people, imagine the healing that would happen on this planet.
Oh,
Because there's no
insurmountable.
ulterior motive for sex or anything else.
absolutely. That's why.
But what is going on that we
Wounds.
think there's this line, either you're platonic friends or you're intimate lovers, and there's nothing in between.
Right.
What is that?
Because it's been skewed. It's been skewed. You have, I think there are parts to it. I think there are a lot of people walking around who have been wounded by people that love them, and those wounds are unhealed. And so love feels very scary. Love feels untrusting, and love requires vulnerability. And in order to receive that, you have to be that. And so,
In order to receive that, you have to be that.
right. So because you are vulnerable with me and I'm vulnerable with you, we can speak freely. We know that there's a mutual love and respect, that I honor what you've been through and you honor what I've been through, and who we are as people. And we can love and respect that. And because of people walking around with these unhealed wounds, and because society has turned it into a romantic or sexualized thing, we think that we can't love it. Love is a feeling, and love is something that we do. It doesn't mean you're in love. And I think that's why.
That's powerful.
Right. I think that's why in the Greek language they have multiple words for the one word,
What is
love.
there, 7 or 11?
Yeah.
Something
I
like
think
that.
Yeah.
Where in English we have one, right?
Right.
Love.
Right.
But there's agape, and even in Jewish, I think there's 7 in the Jewish language, and right, the love God has for us, agape, or we have for Him,
Right.
And we can define that. But
Yes.
it's just gotten so crazy
Right.
in American English that love means one thing. It doesn't.
It doesn't. And the fact that a lot of people, and even children, don't hear those words, I love you, is so disheartening to me. And
Did your parents tell you they loved you?
I cannot think of the last time my parents told me they loved me.
Do you remember the first?
No. It wasn't a regularly used word
My
with me.
kids are sick of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I say it all the time.
Every day.
Every
I don't
day.
care. Even on our little Snapchats.
Every
I
time
love
we
you.
get off the
I
phone.
love you too, old man. Says my son.
Yeah.
I love you, boomer. That's how I know my son's,
Yeah.
But my kids are going to hear every day in every way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go a day where I don't say that. And they live out of state, but I don't care.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want the last words not being that
Right.
they remember from their dad.
Right.
Because I do remember the first time I heard it from my dad. I was in my 30s, right? That's way too late to know that your parents love you.
Right.
And so I'm just going to challenge all of our listeners and viewers on this program today. Don't be afraid to tell people that you love them. I mean, truly mean it.
Yeah.
Right? Have it for yourself so you can give it away.
Right.
But don't be afraid to love people. That's different than, like you said, being in love with people.
I think
because that's reserved for one special person.
It is. It is. And having the bravery or courage to keep your heart open even after it's been hurt, that takes a lot. And so I would challenge viewers to do that as well, that, you know, your past experiences are not your future experiences.
Past performance is not indicative of future results, right?
Yeah.
Don't carry that forward. That's not fair to the next person.
Keep your heart open, because your past is not, it's there for a reason, and it doesn't have to be your future. And to go forward with bravery and keep your heart open. And if you don't know how to do that on your own, there are people that can support you with that. And like you mentioned before, as you love yourself and that grows, it becomes a lot easier to have the courage to be vulnerable and let people in, and not just give love, but feel like you can receive it, be open to receiving it. And so.
Can we talk about that for a second? That's a
Yeah.
big word.
Yeah.
Receive. So it's no secret in the world of cause that, you know, I've had failed marriages in the past, and they were all sweethearts. And I mean that sincerely. Learned great lessons. We'll always love them dearly for the lessons and the things we shared. But I remember specifically that the reason one of my marriages failed is because I couldn't receive love. I'm a giver.
Yeah.
Give big. But my inability to receive love from the other person got old, right? Because it's the infinity sign, right? You can give, but I've also got to just challenge all of us today to be better receivers of love.
Yeah.
Because if we damn that, and we're afraid of that, and we don't receive the love of a person trying to give it to us, it can't survive.
And that's what's really hard and sad about that, is a lot of people shame or hide that instead of befriending that part of themselves and becoming curious about it and asking that part of them that can't receive love, okay, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? Where do I feel this in my body? Does this have a name? How old are you? And just really becoming curious about that part of ourselves instead of shaming it and hiding it. Befriend that part of yourself and hold it and continue to ask why. Well, why am I afraid of receiving love? Why can I not receive love? And ask yourself about 4 whys, and you'll usually end up on a core belief. And most of those unhealthy core beliefs stem out to 3. It's usually, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, I have found. And so if you just sit and be curious, you can really gain a lot of insight to yourself, and it creates this beautiful narrative, and you don't feel out of control, and you feel like you can tackle it, and maybe you can tackle it with help and support, but at least you have a tool you can use when those thoughts come in. Just challenge them and befriend them instead of push them down.
Those are 3 great sources of that. And you're right, but once I recognized it, I can remember the moment, Cassie. I was driving from my home in Prospect Heights, Illinois, down to Naperville, and I'm on the phone with my coach. And at the time, for what I was doing in corporate America, I had 2 coaches because they had 2 different modalities. And I just remember I said it out loud. We're on this, it wasn't the perfect situation to be on the phone driving, but that's the only way I could get the coaching call in. And I said out loud to my coach, I said, I suck at receiving. And this flood of emotion came. And I saw this movie in my mind of all the situations that had passed me by or that I resisted because I didn't receive love.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I was transformed in a day, because now that was 7 years ago. And I recently had a birthday and I had to receive love. And I consciously have to say, yes, I will allow you to serve me. I will allow you to take me to dinner. I will allow you to buy me a gift. Isn't that interesting that you would think that that would be so easy? Because other people can take, and they, don't think anything of it. But that has been a battle.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Did you get to the bottom of why it's hard for you to receive love?
Yes. And it's what you're talking about. It's a combination of all three of those, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm constantly working. But I will say that to someone if I was going to dance in a romantic relationship, is I suck at receiving, so please be patient with me.
Do you know where those core beliefs came from?
Oh, absolutely. My childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was because I grew up with conditional love. I'll love you if.
Right.
I'll love you when.
Me too.
Right?
Me
I'll
too.
love you if you get good grades.
Right.
Well, okay, that wasn't going to be happening. I was that kid. If you just apply yourself, well, you could be a straight A student if you applied yourself. Well, yeah, but I'm a B student and it just comes naturally. So, but there were conditions around the love you got.
So how does that help you be a better father? What is unconditional love?
Well, to your point, I'm going to love you, right? And there's different, I think we do have unconditional love for our children, no matter what, right? But the love we have, let's just say, for people in general, and we'll categorize that into a relationship. But I can have unconditional love for people and in a romantic relationship. But that doesn't mean I don't have boundaries, right? So in a way, there's boundaries, there's conditions, right? Because if you said a core value is loyalty, if you cheat on me, I will love you, but I will choose not to engage with you because loyalty is a core value to me. So that's a non-negotiable, right? But I can have unconditional love for you, but boundaries, because I'm going to protect myself. But I think this is so fascinating because all of life, I think, is human relationships. I have a good friend, Brian Tracy, who taught me in my early 20s. He said, 85% of your success in life, Cause, will be in your ability to get along with the greatest number of different people. That 85% of all your problems talk back to you because they're human relationships. And I have tried my best to be a master of human relationships. And I'm very blessed. I have literally thousands of relationships. But it's like Bill O'Reilly said once, how many true friends do you really have? Your 3 o'clock friends, 3 a.m. friends.
Yeah.
And I remember one night watching the O'Reilly Factor, and he got to the end and he goes, I have less than 5.
Yeah.
I have less than 5 friends. And so I was fascinated by that. And I said, oh, that's got to be an exception. Do you know in America today, especially post-pandemic, most Americans don't have one?
Yeah. Not one person that will love them no matter what.
Right? And if that's our most basic human need, is to be loved and to feel connected and part of something bigger than ourselves with other people, and the average person doesn't have one person they could call at 3 o'clock in the morning, my car's broke down, I need help on the freeway. What a tragedy.
Yeah.
And so I am blessed that I not only have 5, but I mean, I have so many loving relationships, but they take time. And I'll tell you, they turned a corner when I stopped being a people pleaser. I started to receive their love.
Yeah.
And it has been the most miraculous experience of my life when I started to receive.
Yeah.
What a concept. That's powerful. And maybe it doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but it's that infinity sign, right? We and you seem very similar to me. Give. But if we're always giving and we never receive, it cannot work. It cannot work.
Nope. And so many people are seeking that connection, or love, or acceptance, that they allow people in that maybe aren't the best for them. And
because they want to be loved.
they just want, human
Somebody,
connection.
somebody love
Any
me.
type of connection.
Queen, somebody to love.
We're designed to want to connect. In our DNA, we want to connect with other people. And so in seeking that, some people just allow anyone in their life. And
that's not healthy either.
No. But I love your story at how you arrived at that.
Oh, it was
And
not easy.
But
you have to do the work.
I honor that, and I honor your vulnerability in sharing that, because that's part of the problem too. We're not willing to look at those big core beliefs that are there from childhood, and it can be scary and hard and sad, but once we do it, the other side of that is complete and utter bliss.
Oh, and there's such healing in that. Because a former spouse is going on and remarrying now. And it's been so cool to sit back and understand the lessons we both learned and wish the other person well and know that there's been so much healing and know what the reason was on both sides.
Yeah.
You know, that they can now progress in a new relationship because of lessons they learned with you, and you just wish them well. And, you know, life is a beautiful place when it's approached with love and forgiveness and grace.
Absolutely.
But I'm afraid most of us just don't live there for whatever reasons that hopefully we've explored today.
Yeah.
So bring a full circle for us. How do we find more self-love, raise that frequency so that it's sustainable for the long term?
It's a process, but bottom line, nothing outside of you will give you that. Nothing you're seeking outside of yourself will give you that wholeness. You have to look within and look at what parts of you are preventing you from.
Not broken.
Right.
Not broken.
Not broken at all. No one's ever broken.
Perfectly imperfect.
Yep. Look at what's preventing you from feeling that love for yourself and taking the steps needed to get there, which we won't go into that, but
they can call you and you'll help them with that.
yeah. But just looking within and not looking at things outside of yourself, be it drinking, numbing out on alcohol, sex, whatever it is. Nothing outside of you. Codependency, another person, relationship.
Social
nothing
media,
outside
anything.
of you will fill that. Nothing outside of you will help you to feel whole. It's all within you. And so that's my big picture statement, because there is a lot to it. And learn more about yourself. Become curious about yourself. Pour into yourself. All that energy that you might be giving to other things, other people, take all that time, money, energy, and pour it into yourself and see what happens. Give yourself that gift of learning about who you are and why you are the way that you are, and so that you have the ability to explain your own behavior and create a narrative that is a lot more healthy and pleasing as to why you are the way that you are and why you do what you do. Because once you understand yourself, it's easier to understand the world around you. Something I like to say is, once you master your inner world, everything in your outer world starts to fall into place.
Everything changes when you do, huh?
Master the inner world first.
Are you confident that people like you and I can change the world?
I do. I am confident. I mean, I believe that through small, simple things, it starts there. I believe that we can have an impact on humanity by the energy, frequency, and love that we put out. People can see it, people can feel it. When someone does feel that, they're attracted to it. And sometimes they just want to be near it and they want to know how they can spread it. And sometimes they want to have what you have. And so they seek guidance and support. And that is one of the most beautiful things, to see someone step into the light that's been in the dark for a very long time. And so I do know without a shadow of a doubt that if someone wants to change, that people like you and I can very easily have a positive impact on humanity. What we're doing here is having a positive impact on humanity.
To me, there's one listener, there's one viewer today. I don't know who it is, but we're doing this for that one person today.
And if it's but one person, that's all that matters, because every soul is important. Every single soul. And what happens is that one person will then share and spread their love, their light, their energy.
And then it grows. Mm-hmm. But we can do this. I know that. Cassie Callister, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for the universe bringing us together. That's how it works, though, isn't it? Just it blows me away if we're just open to it, of how this works.
Yep.
It really does. And so to you, I've put Cassie's contact information in the lower thirds. If you're watching this on YouTube, then it's also in the description to this video. If you're watching this on Cassie's website, obviously all that information's all over the place of how you can follow her and reach her. And I give a ringing endorsement of everything I've heard thus far of how Cassie can help you. And I just know she's made this part of her mission as well to truly make a difference in the world around her. So again, thank you, Cassie, for being here today.
You.
And to all of you, keep smiling, keep shining brightly, because someone out there is wandering aimlessly through the dark who needs to be guided by your light, your special light.